Hey, welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm your host, Andrea, and we're recording this live from the Secret Kitchen. So welcome, everybody. My guest today is one of my most favorite people, Trina Colford.
Hi, everybody.
We don't have an applause button, Trina, so
that's okay.
We're going to applaud you.
Oh, please, stop.
Yes, I finally got you in the Secret Kitchen.
I know. It's been so long till we could coordinate our calendars, but I'm happy to be here.
Yes.
Beginning of Memorial Day weekend. Yay.
I know. Well, that alone, I can't even kind of wrap my brain around right there. But now, listen, you are a fabulous baker. You're a fabulous cook. You are.
Thank you.
You absolutely are.
Thank you.
And where did that come from for you?
Well, both my grandmothers were fabulous cooks.
The grandparents.
And my grandmother, who was my dad's mom, and my Nana, who was my mom's mom. And then my mom was a fabulous baker. She was a good cook, but she was a fabulous baker. So I guess roll that all into one, and being the youngest of 4 kids by 7 years, I was always stuck with the grandmother or with my grandmother or with my Nana. Not stuck, but
it rolled into you.
Right. Spent a lot of time with my Nana down at her house in Jersey City. And, we just watch her just whip up these, nothing fancy, nothing elaborate, but the most delicious Italian bread I have ever tasted to date. And I wish I'd written that recipe down because nobody makes that. But she did do, so she really was a great cook. My mom was the baker who would make. But
let me ask you this. Okay, so you're a little girl in your grandma's kitchen. Did you have the attraction like, Grandma, I want to help you? Or did it,
it wasn't more, no, I think that came really more with my mom. Because, again, being the youngest and coming after 7 years, my 2 brothers and my older sister were always out. When I was 7, my sister was 14, so I was home with my mom while they were out all gallivanting in Jersey City.
Right.
Who knows, causing whatever havoc.
Yeah.
Right. So, my mom was a phenomenal baker, especially around the holidays and everything. So I was her assistant. And I guess she'd give me a little piece of dough, and I'd play with it for hours. I'd roll it out. She'd give me a plastic knife. I would cut it. But she always made elaborate. At Christmas, she made some people make a gingerbread house, but she made a house out of cake mix or cake that was completely done with decorated.
That's pretty wild.
With an ice skating rink and ice skaters on this board, and elaborate. And at Easter, she would make these cookies that looked like Easter bonnets. And, everybody in the neighborhood got them. So I guess that's where my love, and everybody in my house except for my one brother is creative in one way or another. My sister is a fabulous seamstress. My brother is a world-known artist. And so I guess finally I can say I'm an artist too. It took me a long time in fact, you're the one that told me one day it's okay to say that you're an artist.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. In some ways, I always define myself as an artist.
Right.
And an artist is not just someone who paints. There's landscape artistry, there's kitchen artistry, there's cake decorating artistry.
Yeah.
Photography, we both share a love of that.
We do. And I just took up painting too, so that's another medium. Yeah. But I won't want to talk about food because that's my favorite thing.
But you're definitely an artist in the food area. But now, tell me, do you remember, what's the first thing that you, on your own, ever baked?
Wow.
Now we're going back.
Oh, well, no, actually, I do remember. I'm sure I made cupcakes in grammar school and stuff like that, but the first thing that I really made, I remember I worked for Eastern Airlines, And when we graduated, we had to go to Miami for 3 weeks. And when we graduated and got back, I guess there were about maybe 30 to 40 people in my class. And I had a party at my house. And I made the cake for the party in the shape of an airplane. So I guess that was the first one. And then my husband's birthday was around St. Patrick's Day. So I would always make him a cake in the shape of a shamrock. So those are my earliest memories of attempting to make something other than just a round 2-layer cake.
Wow. But that's
I've
pretty...
thought about those in a really long time.
Yeah, but that really is pretty awesome. And I'm sure, too, everything that you do is always well received. Gets a lot of oohs and ahs.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was young, but, and I guess then... And so then after, I was married and had my kids, I took a cake decorating course at JCPenney.
Wow.
With my girlfriend Maureen.
So we're really going back. Cause
we're going way back. We're going probably 40 years or more.
Let me just guess. Was it Wilton product?
Yeah, Wilton.
Wilton.
Yeah, and so we did that. And it was, as I said, Maureen and I did it. And then I started a little... business called Tasties by Trina.
Oh,
Unique
Trina.
Cakes for all occasions.
Uh-huh.
And people used to order cakes. And in fact, one of my biggest orders at the time was a cake to look like Frank Sinatra. Yeah, so...
Seriously?
Yeah. Somebody, I forget why they ordered. Maybe they just...
So how did you execute that?
So you just, back then they had something called, you did something called like a fill-in icing. This was before fondant, and I don't particularly work still with fondant because I don't really care for it. But you used to like sketch it out on a cake with a toothpick, and then you would make it was called flow icing.
Oh my God.
And then you would sketch it out on the icing, and then your icing would have to be very thin.
Yeah.
And you'd kind of pour it into the section that you wanted it to be the eye.
So I'm getting like paint by number, but icing.
Yeah. And then of course, everybody could tell that you were doing it because the next day your fingers were, maroon or black.
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
I never heard
and
of
your
that.
tongue was a dead giveaway too, because as you were cleaning up, you take the spoon and lick it, and then the next day somebody would say, "Are you okay? Your tongue is like turquoise." I'm like, "No, I'm fine. It's just icing." Yeah. So those, I remember those being, and then I made wedding cakes. In fact, my daughter...
Oh, you have. You've made fantastic cakes.
Thanks,
Yes.
yeah. In fact, my daughter got married 3 years ago. I made her wedding cake, which was a beach theme. And so for the first time I did work, not really kind of the first time, I worked with fondant to make waves for the cake because she was married in Cape May on the beach. And then I also did... chocolate molds of starfish and all shells.
Right, I remember seeing all the pictures.
I incorporated all that. So that was a real work of love. And then the really interesting thing is now you have to transport the cake.
Yes, it's not anyone who's ever watched any of those cake competitions on television knows that, and they say that too, because you can bake a cake, but now you have to get it to the venue. Right. So that I know that's challenging.
And it was my daughter's. Besides it would be
you wanted to
client,
be intact.
So really, what you have to do is I had to really read up on.
Cake transport.
Yeah, as opposed to just making it and having it at home so people came. So I had to actually put a dowel.
Yes.
Down through the middle of the cake, and then get a cake box, of course, to fit and make sure it didn't shift in transport. It was
that's challenging.
Yeah, but you know what? It all worked out. I'd say it all worked out for the good. So I was very lucky, and it was all coconut flavored from the inside, homemade coconut, which is one of my specialties. Homemade coconut layer cake. On the inside, the icing was coconut, and the outside was coconut icing. So, needless to say, we're a coconut family.
Yes, I would think so. Mm-hmm. So when you're doing that, what is giving you the pleasure there? What are you loving? Because it's definitely it's labor, it's work.
Yeah.
But as you're doing it, what are you loving it even then? Maybe not so much.
No, not so much.
After the fact, though, you can look back.
I mean, I'm loving it just to see the pleasure on somebody's face and to know that, I made it with love and they appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because anytime I've ever received any kind of a gift, regardless of what it is, it could be the tiniest thing that has actually no monetary or not little monetary value. But if somebody made it for me,
Yeah.
like even I used to have a friend of mine.
Because that's the love, right?
That's
there.
the love that used to make a homemade card every year for my birthday with construction paper. Mm-hmm. So anybody can go to the store and buy a card.
Yep, that's true.
You know, so when you make something with love, and there's sometimes I've had fiascos where I've dropped a cake and
Who hasn't?
and one of the things that was really challenging is when my niece got married for her shower, I made a cupcake bouquet.
Trina's kind of famous for her cupcake art,
Yeah.
I must say.
Yeah, so I made a cupcake bouquet, and you get a styrofoam bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but then you have to find something that actually the styrofoam bowl will sit in and be secure.
It's got to hold up all these cupcakes.
Right, and then you start building cupcakes, and then you have to ice them, and they really come out looking like a bouquet.
Yeah.
And transporting that, that's a prayer. But I've done 2 of them, and luckily they transported okay. But I did get a lot of honks from people behind me because I was going about a mile an hour. But I got them there.
What do you want to create that you've not tackled yet?
Wow, nobody's ever asked me that. Huh.
See, well, we have to ask the hard questions here in Kitchen Conversations.
Yeah. I think my granddaughter Pearl, she's 2.5. She's very into Rapunzel right now. That's her, her life.
Yeah.
She has beautiful long hair, and so she has to have a braid every night before she goes to bed, and during the day too. So if she's still into
Rapunzel, let
down your hair. So I think if she's going to be 3 in November, so I think if she's still into Rapunzel by then, I think that I would want to create a tower and then have it golden hair coming out of the tower.
Wow.
For her.
So an upright cake.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would make a couple of more than a couple, but 6-inch cakes.
Yeah.
And just make a tower.
Right, there you go.
Then just have the hair cascading out of the tower window, if she's still into it.
She might be into somebody else by then.
And then maybe, or the other thing is, I did think before I realized she was into Rapunzel, I was thinking about her third brother, because I can't believe she's going to be 3. So I was thinking about maybe making a cake with all her favorite princesses like on it, like do a corner of Moana, a corner of Luca, a corner of Beauty and the Beast, corner of Rapunzel, or maybe make Rapunzel the star.
So her birthday is in November,
right?
Oh, so you've got
yeah. When I go home tonight, I'm going to start baking. Yeah.
Well, one thing that I learned from seeing all the things that you would bake, I baking, nobody baked in my family when I was a kid, and I thought, a baking pan was a 9-inch round or the oblong pan. I didn't even know that there were so many other sizes. Now I'd see you making these enormous cakes and all these different things, and of course, you realize there's a whole cake making world out there.
It's funny
with everything you could even want.
I just started cleaning out all my cake supplies actually, and I have a metal shelf, out of my garage with all my supplies. But I'm organizing everything just to see what I have, what I still need,
right.
And what I have to get. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Trina, happily for us, she brought some cake, so we're going to try it out. So we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And as you can see, we have this beautiful coffee cake, and of course the part that I like the most is the crumbs.
The crumbs are the best.
The crumbs are the best, and Trina actually said this is double crumbs.
Right. I actually found out that for anybody out there in coffee cake crumb land,
All of us.
Yeah. The secret to making a good coffee cake is to double your crumbs.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
So whatever recipe you may make to make your coffee cake or your crumb cake, always, regardless if it's a streusel or if it's these kind of crumbs, always
as
double
much.
your crumbs. I found out the hard way, so you double the crumbs.
Because I find that if you don't, well, first of all, who doesn't want extra crumbs?
Exactly.
But also, the basic recipe is never enough. It's very, very sparse, and it tends to sink right down. So if you have
Right.
lots and lots of crumbs, you're going to be sure to have
Right, right. Another tip I can give
Crumbs.
you about making your coffee cake is you always make your crumbs or your streusel or anything like that in advance.
Yes.
I think we spoke on
That's
the phone the
right,
other
first.
day about that.
You make
You
that
always
first.
make them first and put them to the side. Some recipes call for your crumbs to be refrigerated. I don't refrigerate these, but I make them first and I put them to the side. The other thing that people don't realize, for this recipe anyway, and this is basically really the only one I ever make. And I mean, I've had people order them from me.
This is a blueberry.
This is blueberry crumb cake because I just happen to love blueberry crumb cake. You can make it plain. You could put nuts in it. What I like though is that it's blueberry season, so why not?
Exactly.
And the other thing that I was going to say is, people have asked me to, would I make one for them?
Because you're not busy.
It's expensive to make and to ship. I would really be afraid crumb wise. I'm not an expert, I don't work for UPS or the mail, so I don't really know how to ship it that it wouldn't disintegrate. Really,
Yeah, I would.
I mean,
know.
I guess, and it would cost so much to ship it because it's so heavy.
Dense and it's heavy.
Yeah, so I make them for people locally, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I would.
But
I
anyway,
feel. I feel the same.
Want to try a piece?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great.
So, are you using a springform pan?
Springform pan, yeah.
9-inch,
9-inch springform pan.
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing, that's what I was going to say about the crumbs, is that a lot of times people don't realize when you're making a coffee cake is that you make the cake part
Let me
first.
kind of hold
yeah,
on
just
to
hold
that.
it. It's starting to wiggle.
Here.
So you
Don't mind us.
make the coffee cake first. And then the actual cake bakes for about 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then you put the crumbs on. So that gives it a better opportunity for the crumbs not to sink.
Right, that's really a great tip, because I do think that is one of the problems that a lot of people face, is that the crumbs do sink. The cake billows up over it.
Yeah.
And that's especially obvious if you haven't used enough crumbs.
Right.
But I like your idea. So you put it in the oven uncrumbed.
Uncrumbed.
That's my new word.
350 for 45 minutes.
But I mean, how much of the time is uncrumbed?
45 minutes.
Oh, 45 minutes.
45
Okay,
minutes.
and then
I put the crumbs on. And another tip is, again, these are just all tips that I use. You don't have to use them, but I've had
Trying the crumb.
I probably have made about 30 to 40 of these, and
that was
maybe
this week.
Yeah, and maybe 5 of them have had to go. I'm not going to say the garbage, but maybe they've had to go to a big glass bowl where I broke it up and put whipped cream on it and called it something else.
What happened to it, though?
The crumb sunk.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, even...
I mean, it's still delicious, even if the crumbs sink.
Yeah,
but
it's just not
aesthetically
visually appealing.
we're making
Right.
a crumb cake.
Right.
So after 45 minutes and you put the crumbs on, how much longer then do you...
So then I do it for a half hour.
Another half an
Oh,
hour.
and another trick is that I, when I'm doing the crumbs, I always wear gloves. So I always wear plastic gloves that you can buy in, ShopRite, any store that you shop in. They're actually cooking gloves. They're not like ones you use to wash the dishes. Don't use those. But they're disposable gloves. I think Playtex makes them or whatever. So I put on gloves. So when I'm making my crumbs, the one thing I always remember my mom, even though I literally wash my hands up to here like a doctor, my mom was a nurse, you know, you just never know what's in your nails. So I always
And with crumbs, you really are getting up close and personal.
So I always just put gloves on, and then I just kind of squeeze and just, you know, go around.
The secret.
And
you have to squeeze them. So do you use, there's kind of two schools of thought on crumbs. Who knew there would be so much to talk about crumbs? By the way, delicious. I love the crumbs. I could just, you know, take them all. Some people melt the butter, and some people make sure the butter is ice cold, and they, you know, use a pastry cutter. I typically melt the butter.
Melt it.
And I don't know why you do one over the other.
I have found, excuse me one second.
It's delicious, by the way.
Thank you.
Jim is our cameraman. He's watching us eat this coffee cake. It's coming, Jim. You'll get yours. Delicious.
Thank you. So what I found is that if you're making crumbs,
and we are,
which is crazy, right? Yeah. Coming to you, the crumb story.
This is the crumb story.
So if you're making crumbs, I think you're better off to melt your butter. And if you're making streusel, I think you're better to use the cold butter and cut it into your flour and sugar cinnamon mixture.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure why, but I know that I discovered that if you make the crumbs first, which I do, it gives the melted butter a chance to cool again, and with the flour and everything, it hardens, and the crumbs are hard. The hardest thing about it really is making sure that your cake portion is cooked enough so that those crumbs don't sink.
And you know what else, Trina? You wouldn't want to make a cake batter that was very thin. Because to hold up the weight of this, but a good coffee cake is going to be on the denser side, so it's going to hold the weight of double crumbs,
And this is a dense cake.
Yeah, I think a good coffee cake is.
I'm a dense cake lover.
Yeah, a good coffee cake should be dense. It's delicious.
Oh, thank you.
It is delicious. So you did blueberries, but of course you could do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you know what, you could probably...
That's the beauty of a great coffee... Once you have a great coffee cake recipe, you could do anything to it.
Right, this is my standard. But, you know, I was just thinking, if, you know, you had any chocolate chip lovers out there, you could probably do chocolate chips. Yeah, this is just my favorite. So this is my...
Well, like you said, it's blueberry season. I can do it,
you know, by rote. I don't have to look at the recipe anymore. I still do, though. Because I found out the hard way, you know, if you think you have a recipe committed to memory, and I have several, but then all of a sudden like, oh, wait, is the coconut cake 2/3 of a cup of sugar, or is the coffee? So I always just get my recipe out. You know.
So I have done that many times when I think I've committed it to memory, and then I realize, oh, I never added the this or the that. So yeah. Got it. So yeah,
you learn. You
learn the hard way.
Trial and error. And I also think that the weather has a lot to do with baking. The humidity, and depends on what you're making. I've made cream puffs. That's another one of my specialties. And you know, sometimes they come out. They're just the most beautiful little things in the world. And you make it the second batch, and they're flat as pancakes. There's no. Also, another thing that just a suggestion for people, which I've learned.
We learn it all the hard way.
Replace your salt, your baking powder, and your baking soda about every 3 months.
So that stuff has an expiration date.
It does.
If you're not using it up,
And excuse me, for people that don't bake a lot, and then they'll say, oh, you know, it's Jim's birthday, I'm going to make him a cake, and you go in and your salt is, baking 4 years old.
Right, and that happens, I know that for many people.
You know, if you're a baker, I usually buy most of my baking supplies. Maybe I'll get something from them. But at Lidl.
I don't think you will, but
No,
nice
I
try.
don't think so either. But Lidl, because the butter and
Yeah.
those things are a little bit cheaper there. Yeah.
I mean, baking is an expensive proposition. So I always say you want to use good ingredients, you want to do a good job. And when you do a good job, this is the results. I'm sorry you can't be with us to taste it.
Yeah.
But it just means more crumbs for us.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
It really is delish.
I can't resist for everybody just holding up a crumb.
I know. Hold up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a serious crumb.
Yeah, this is a good crumb.
And you only get this level of crumb when you make double, and you got to really squeeze them together. So, good job, Trina.
Thank you.
I know. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for coming in today into the Secret Kitchen and bringing this absolutely beautiful crumb cake.
Well, you're welcome. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for not finally inviting me, but thanks for finally having me that we could coordinate our
I know,
calendars.
scheduling is always an issue for everyone, But you know what?
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right.
And cheers to all of you. And so, signing off on Kitchen Conversations. Until next time. Thanks for tuning in today.